Good morning. Good morning. What's up, everybody? How's everyone doing this morning? Hope you're doing well. JTW here with another Xtrades FOMO live stream. Hope you guys are ready. Let me make sure I'm ready. Let's get this stream started for our Discord viewers as well. All right, that looks good there. YouTube looks good to go. All right. So, hope everybody is doing well this morning. It is Tuesday, September the 10th. We've got the presidential debate coming up this evening. That will be certainly an interesting potential catalyst, but it's not going to really, I don't think it's going to shake anything near term in the markets unless, one or the other candidate comes out with a I guess totally out of the blue, wild, potential policy position should they take office that uh, would shake things up in the markets. I don't expect that to happen. I mean, generally, I think both are going to try to, as best they can, kind of trend toward the middle versus going out and making kind of any extreme new statements that could rattle their respective campaigns. So, not expecting a lot out of it, but certainly something to keep in mind, keep on watch. We also have the Fed rate decision coming up later this month, so make sure that you're, you know, kind of keeping your head on a swivel as some of these catalysts come up. But more than anything else, I would say would be that Fed rate decision, because that's going to be the size of that rate cut, which is what we're all expecting, is going to, I think, make a big difference in, when or how the market's going to react here in the near term. That is coming up next week, next Wednesday, September the 18th. So to keep that in mind as you kind of set yourselves up in trades and get ready for sort of things to come. So with that being said, let's dig into some charts. If you're here in the chats or in the mix on YouTube, feel free to say what's up, say good morning. Would love to hear from you guys. Unknown Reviews, I see you in the mix as always. Good morning to you, all of you hanging out and just watching. Feel free to speak up if you don't want to, that's fine. But obviously, the more folks we have engaged in the discussion, the better, the more productive I think it is. And we tend to find better trade plan setups that ultimately become more profitable trades. So let's talk about some of that and what we're seeing here with the markets in general. We've got ES here on the chart, finally breaking above the 333 SMA here on the 15-minute. We've been under that for quite some time, so it could be a good sign for a near-term push as we head into that rate decision next week. We did break over some of these recent tops as well, and have reestablished some bullish trend. We do have a key level coming up overhead. 55.18 is certainly one to keep on watch. It's one that we watched on the way up last time. It's certainly one that we'll watch on the way up this time. If we can get over that, I think we wind up testing into this supply zone overhead, so making a move from about 55.18 to potentially 55.61 and some change. Should we break over that level, if you trade futures or if you like to trade SPY, look for long entries, whether those be leaps or something with some time on it, or something shorter term, because I would expect that move to happen kind of near term, but not or it's always a good idea, I would say, to start to build those longer term positions kind of on the right foot. If you see a really great entry that you would take with shorter term contracts, maybe go longer term. You're still going to make good money on the move either way. Will obviously be a little bit more expensive to enter the trade, but that's generally worth the additional investment in my personal experience. And it kind of, like I said, gets you going on the right foot, where something that may have returned a couple $100 in a week could trade several, or return several $1,000s to your account over a longer period of time. So keep those things in mind as we see some of these setups. I do like ES to continue to the upside as long as we hold over 54.87 in this 333 SMA area. Obviously, that's going to be a moving target, but right now sitting around 54.83. So, holding that zone, that could be a good little dip buy area. If it loses that, I'd be out and maybe waiting for a test of this 200 SMA down here, closer to 54, we'll call it 54.60. So with that being said, let's get to our member selected trade plans from over the weekend and the trade plans we did on last Thursday's live stream. If you guys have just joined while I was kind of going over some overview stuff and catalysts that we have coming up in the near future, please go ahead and say hello. Say good morning. We'd love to hear from you guys. I see YouTube viewers increasing, but not really talking, which, is fine. You don't have to talk. This can be a one-sided discussion, except for, or maybe it'll just be a one-on-one discussion between me and Unknown Reviews. So anyway, don't be shy. Come chime in if you guys want to engage in the conversation, ask questions, give me ticker requests. That's what I'm here for when we do these live streams every Tuesday and Thursday. So going to our member selected trade plans, Tesla, you're always here on Unknown Reviews, and I appreciate you for it, and love to engage in the conversation, which I, again, also appreciate. So Tesla, this was an interesting one, a fantastic back test setup. We saw it break over. So we did this plan Sunday evening. It was published. We gapped up over the call entry, and we're holding that as the pre-market low going into the trading day. And then what happened right after open, we got this dip down in a perfect test off that call entry level there at 214.85. Also a fantastic test of the key buying level on Neptune. So really, really, really great confluence. A little bit of a not a plus setup with the SMAs kind of set up the way they were yesterday, but that, if that happens, and sometimes that doesn't mean you don't necessarily execute the trade. Maybe you just size a little bit smaller, but regardless of how you decided to size it, it played out beautifully, ran right off that back test at 213.71. What was the actual low on that? 213.67. So we were, 4 cents off of the low a day with that call entry. So fantastic level there. Back tested that, pushed all the way almost to PT3, but definitely got PT1 plus on the first, or I'm sorry, PT2 plus on the first run, back test to PT1, and then another setup. So this is a great scale out, add back in, scale out kind of opportunity there. Another potential entry opportunity there off the Neptune key buying pressure area in the 200 SMA confluence right in there. So really lots of great bullish moves on Tesla yesterday that could have been played and recycled within the plan. And here we see it testing PT3 pre-market with a little bit of a rejection, which is what we would expect to see. That's why we had it as our third price target for calls. So Tesla plan that we published Sunday evening. It was published in the Xtrades Discord community, as well as to my Twitter or X profile. If you haven't checked that out, I think it's JT Trade Plans or something like that. I kind of just do it to sort of help folks out and post there occasionally. It's not something where I, am overly interested in trying to be one of these, Twitter gurus, because that's just not my interest, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So testing PT3 at a little bit of a pullback there. No surprises on Tesla. Fantastic trade plan. I keep telling myself one of these days I'm going to reverse my rule on never trading Tesla. And I continue to not do that, even though I see these setups coming. But I do publish the plans, and I certainly hope you guys are doing the following, which is marking the levels on your charts, whether you're watching these videos in review or you're marking them live as we're covering the trade plan. Make sure you're putting those levels down, and once you've got them down on your charts, make sure you're setting alerts on those levels so you know when it's time to act. You would have gotten a perfect backtest long entry setup that immediately became a money printer if you do exactly what I just described. So please, please, please take advantage of what we do when we spend our time together every Tuesday and Thursday morning. All right, so Palantir was next on the member selected trade plans from over the weekend. Another beautiful breakover, back test off the call entry, and continued higher to PT1. Slowly but surely, it looked like it started to flip PT1 to support, and that continues to be the case going into pre-market this morning. Looks like it's trying to make a push for PT2 here as it breaks over that extended hours high from yesterday. excuse me, from yesterday, or is at least starting to print over that. Hasn't broken yet though, so not quite there, but very close to hitting our second price target, and then we'll be looking for PT3. So very, very nice trade plan here on Palantir. Another one where, again, that back test setup was a fantastic entry opportunity. You just had to have your alerts set and be ready to execute. Google, this one broke to the downside. Let's go to a smaller time frame so we can kind of look at how the break happened. Did give us a dip down, looked like a little bit of a perfect back test there, but ultimately did push back above, at least temporarily, before dipping all the way down and making it to our first price target where it bounced. So again, sometimes PT1 is all we get. Make sure you scale out there. Also need to take into consideration whether or not you're willing to swing stuff as it's bouncing against you going into the close. Another thing to think about, if you've got longer term contracts, you've already scaled out some for profit, and you've got some cushion on the trade at that point, I would hold through that to see how things continue to play out, especially with these SMAs coming down overhead pretty quickly. That's essentially just a big cloud of selling pressure there that's coming down overhead and really getting ready to add some confluence with this 149.41 level. So watch Google for potential rejection this morning. Anywhere in this area up to 150.29. Over 150.29 could see a better recovery and maybe a push for 152.04. I don't see anything here in the 15-minute that makes me feel any differently about that. That would put us over the selling pressure on the 15-minute on Neptune, and plenty of room before you run into the 200 or 333 as potential resistance points on the 15-minute. So a break over 150.29 could see a recovery possibly up to this PM high of yesterday where that 200 SMA is sitting currently. That will come down some, but we could always print above and tap that before there's a pullback. So could be a potential way to re-engineer some of these levels you see here on the chart for a long trade plan setup with a break over 150.29, stop loss at 148.86, and a first price target somewhere in this 152.04 to 153.04 range. So keep those levels on watch. We could see an entry there and a push higher, even though it's not exactly as the plan prescribes. That doesn't mean that we still don't use these levels and adjust as we see things play out. But again, great test of PT1. So I think, yeah, member selected trade plans 3 for 3 from over the weekend. Tesla, all upside price targets hit again off this absolutely gorgeous back test right out of the gate yesterday. Testing PT3 for calls again here this morning, and maybe looking for more over that if you swung. Palantir with the breakout back test PT1. Now going for PT2. Like I said, it looked like it was trying to break that extended hours / pre-market high this morning. It's at least printing above and almost to PT2 there. So be ready to scale out some Palantir at open. And then Google actually played out to the downside. So we got 2 upside and 1 downside plans, but 3 for 3 with price targets hitting on all 3 of those. So Pat's self on back in parentheses. All right, so we did some trade plans last Thursday on last Thursday morning's live stream. If you guys have ticker requests that you want to drop, put those in the chat, whether that be in YouTube or at Discord. Man, our Discord is empty. Do people know that I'm doing this morning? Somebody might need to make an announcement. But YouTube audience seems to be building nicely. So YouTube is, again, where our focus kind of is anyway. So Discord's kind of just along for the ride. And so we've got some trade plans to work on this morning. If you guys have ticker requests, please go ahead and drop those in the chat. As you can see, Unknown Reviews has already requested our H Restoration Hardware. Most people instantly think that that's going to be Robinhood, but Robinhood is Hood. So Restoration Hardware, we'll take a look at that for Unknown Reviews. But Neo, we looked at last. Was this one of your requests, Unknown? I forget who asked for Neo last week, but anyway, we got the break last week after the earnings report going into the trading day on Thursday. Gave us a back test right here of support off the put entry level at 426. Ultimately, though, let's dig into this a little bit tighter so we can sort of see the breaks and how the candles played out. Okay, I just wondered because earnings were right around that time, and I know you like to use those earnings reports as catalysts for your trades. So again, we saw that back test of the put entry, also a really nice confluence of the SMAs right there on the 5 minute at 426. But if you waited for the plan as prescribed, again, we got the breakout, confirmed break there, a little bit of a dip back below before it got to pushing higher, and then ultimately got to PT1 plus the following day, Friday. And then yesterday, absolute rocket, pretty close to a back test. Let's see, what did that get down to? Low of that candle, 476. I mean, you're within 5 cents of that back test. I'd execute on that. I kind of had a crazy day and wasn't able to trade much, so I didn't do anything with it personally. But yeah, really nice back test all the way pretty much to PT3 within the day, and trying to push for more here, holding PT2 as support so far on that Neo trade plan. So really nice one. You could have executed this with shares or options contracts and done very well in either case. Hey, what's up, Strife? Good morning. Hey, late is better than never, right? So glad you're here. Glad you joined us. If you have a ticker request, go ahead and drop it in the chat. I am getting ready to work on some new trade plans here momentarily. All right, last but not least on the trade plan reviews, MDB, MongoDB, Mongo database. This was this unknown? Was this you unknown reviews? I thought this was you maybe, but I don't see an earnings report here. So maybe you were just looking for a good old fashioned trade plan. I thought it was you. Okay. So, whoops, that's not what I wanted to hide. There we go. So let's take a look at this one. This is not one that I personally followed or tracked. I forgot to set my alerts on it actually. So, you know, do as I say, not as I do on that one. Looks like a nice breakdown below, back test entry, but came back up and then flipped it to support shortly after. However, we did get a really nice test and rejection of the stop loss average down. Again, I didn't personally trade this and wasn't able to watch much yesterday. So I'm not sure if that would have been enough to get your contracts back to break even on that rejection. Pretty nice rejection though. It's possible if you timed it well enough. You could have been close to break even on that, but again, a lot of that would also have to do with what contracts you took and the timing of your entries. This one's still on the bearish side of things as long as it's below 289.86. I'm just a little disappointed in that breakdown and back test that didn't kind of continue down lower. So overall, in the trade plans we reviewed this morning, whether those be the member selected trade plans that I published Sunday evening or the trade plans we did last Thursday morning, 4 for 5, not bad. And really, actually it's 4 for 5 and 5. The fifth trade plan being MDB, kind of TBD, because it hasn't invalidated the downside trade plan yet and could have been salvageable. So maybe we'll give it a 4.25 out of 5. All right. So, thank you, Unknown. I appreciate that. I always like to know who requests these so I can follow up with them and make sure that they are executing and making hay with my hard work that I'm putting out here for you guys. So, let's dig into some trade plans. I'm going to work on Restoration Hardware here first for Unknown reviews, but if you guys have other trade plans or trade plan requests, I should say, please go ahead and drop those in the chat. Let me know which one you want me to take a look at. Strife, I'm looking at you, or at least I'm looking at your name, not looking at you. I'm not a creepy stalker guy. All right, let's get this sorted, get our chart cleaned up a little bit. This one, yeah, I was going to say, I think I've only kind of done bigger picture kind of within a certain, looks like all weekly and daily levels on Restoration Hardware so far, but we'll obviously fill in the blanks for our trade plans as we work our way through this. So let's hide all this. All right, and actually indicators off for a moment. Okay, so interestingly, retesting, and looks like it's trying to print a bounce off of this daily level around 240.64 that we hit recently and bounced off of. This was a Warren Buffett ticker for a while, but I think he's exited it since. I don't closely track everything he does, but I feel like I got a pretty good memory and I catch the little tidbits as they kind of come through the, you know, typical channels. I guess it's probably the right way to say that. Yeah, come on, Strafe. Give me some trade plan ideas here. I do like this level, and I wonder if I did have that daily level a little bit off with this bounce and rejection that we saw recently. And not a chart that I've studied heavily. But that's okay. We'll do some stuff here on the fly. All right, let me go big picture. I don't want to get into the weeds on the 5 minute. Always start zoomed out and work your way in is my suggestion. Maybe we can do SPY or Adobe. Yeah, we can do one of those for sure. All right, so also Strife, if you want, hit me with a trade plan. Okay, so let's take a look at this real quick. It's another level I think I had just a little bit off maybe. It's more like right there. Just looking at that bounce rejection. Clearly rejection there. All right, so it looks like a pretty key leveler. Lots of buying pressure happening down in this range between 240.64 and 229.82. Clearly a strong bottom down there at 207.65. We have double bottomed off of that and have not retested it since, making a higher low, bigger picture. But overall, in kind of a very, excuse me, volatile, choppy consolidation range. So this could see like upside and downside plans play out kind of within a short period of time. So yeah, this could be a really interesting one. Doesn't really trade on the extended hours, but it also doesn't really print anything on the extended hours. So it's, you know, the 24-hour chart and the daily chart are going to almost look identical. It's an interesting fill in there though. All right, well, I'm going to go with the 24-hour chart, kind of always my default for daily levels. I think we do have one in here that I was just noticing. But I want to check this level down here. I'm kind of thinking of like a, if it's, as long as it's over 240.64 going into the open and that holds, this could be like a one of our unusual, but we do it sometimes, buy the dip and, you know, potentially buy the dip right out of the gate on Restoration Hardware. Again, I would start very small. Lots of fake outs and volatility during those opening moments of a trading day. Ultimately, there is a level here a little bit higher than that weekly level. So we could actually narrow, I think, our stop loss on this a little bit. Hey, what's up, Sataru? We can try to take a look at IWM for you. Good morning. Good to see you here. Thanks for joining. All right, so yeah, I'm thinking of like essentially like a buy the dip. Could be close to open. I don't know. We can take a look at that as well. I'm going to try to get through as many of these as possible, fellas. All right, 250.20. Strife was asking about JPM for those who didn't catch it. So I'm thinking of a buy the dip as long as we're over 240.64. Stop loss at 233.09. First target there at 250.21. Second target. Let's get into the weeds a little bit now. Do we need a second target or do we go for 262.87 is the question. I think we do need a second target actually. Yeah, we've got a level. Yeah, right here that I wouldn't want to be greedy and totally ignore. At at 257.41. Third target, I would definitely go with this 262.87. We saw this, rally base, right? Rally to the downside off this rally bottom, and we've rejected that. So it was support. We've seen act as resistance once already and very recently. I wouldn't ignore that as a potential significant resistance near term, especially with kind of the volatile chop that we're seeing here on Restoration Hardware. So I like that buy the dip plan as long as we're holding 240.64, buy near the open, preferably off a back test of 240.64 if we get one. That's not guaranteed, of course. Targets at 250.21, 257.41, and 262.87 with a stop loss average down to 233.09. So a little bit of a different approach on this because of that buy the dip opportunity that I'm seeing as long as we hold that 240.64 level. So we're essentially already on the call side of things, but that can happen sometimes. All right. Kind of like what we saw with Tesla, right? We gapped up. We started the trading day, even pre-market, over the call entry. We were up above it. That's when you wait for a back test or wait for some kind of, things to kind of make themselves clear. Don't chase the entry up here. Wait for the back test. Let the trade come to you, because that was just an absolute springboard yesterday for Tesla. So kind of the same thing with Restoration Hardware. Again, preferably a back test off that 240.64, even though we're going to start the day probably over it. All right, so let's see. I'm kind of looking at 233.09 being sort of a dual purpose or dual use level to watch, because it kind of looks like it would be a really good put entry, and we could use the call entry as our stop loss average down for the downside trade plan. So the question is, though, does it have enough room to the downside to make that profitable? Be interested to see where, this level right about here sits on some of that price action we were just looking at a second ago. So this is how I trade plan, guys. So I hope you're kind of paying attention. One of the key things is learning how to spot and find key support and resistance levels. I do like that actually as a first price target. I think our second price target is down here. We'll confirm that in a second. 218.26, third price target down here to this 207.65 level. Last test came a little shy of it, though. We did talk about that being a higher low in this area of consolidation. Maybe we do need to be a little less greedy. It's also a nice double bottom there on the hourly off that level. 212.53. Let's see if that's a confirmed level, or is it maybe a little higher? 213.07 possibly. Let's see. Do we have another test here coming up? I said very choppy. Yeah, it's somewhere right in this range, I think. Actually, there is a level that we can see on the hourly. I think I kind of split the difference there, probably. Yeah, it's getting us out maybe a little bit earlier than that absolute bottom. And again, I could see this being adjusted down just a little bit to 213.24. So let's, again, kind of remember or keep in mind that this is in sort of a volatile consolidation phase. Has been for a while. So we've got an upside trade plan that looks like this, and a downside trade plan. I don't really know of a good way to, I guess we can just do it like that. Downside trade plan. So essentially the stop loss for the downside is the entry for the upside. The stop loss for the upside is the entry for the downside. So a little bit of a different looking chart here, but I think it makes sense. Also, a little bit of a different approach with us looking to buy the dip. Oh, of course, let me check the indicators, make sure I don't see anything that changes my mind too much. In fact, if anything, I see validation on where we've got our targets set, especially with these SMAs up here. Going to probably still be in that range. If we get a push to the upside, that'll flatten them out, maybe even push them up to where they will be creating some additional selling pressure up around that 262.87 PT3. So yeah, I think if anything, indicators are confirming where we've got our levels at, and certainly nothing in the way indicator wise of continuation to the downside on any of the kind of key time frames that I typically look at. So yep, looks good across the board. So let's put a seal of approval on this. We'll talk through it. Here we go. So this is our RH live stream plan. Get this posted in the watch list. All right, so what are we looking for on Restoration Hardware? Well, we're looking essentially to buy the dip, preferably off of a backtest of 240.64 shortly out of the gate this morning. If not, and you're willing to maybe take a less than ideal entry, with the belief that Restoration Hardware is going to essentially hold this double bottom and get a retest of this weekly level overhead, which is what it looks like it wants to do. To me, we'd be essentially looking to buy the dip, start small, shortly out of the gate, and as long as we're over 240.82 or preferably off a back test of 240.82. Yeah, I know. I mentioned that earlier, Strife. It's like everybody's going to think that that's Robinhood and it's Restoration Hardware. First price target 250.21 off that buy the dip move. Over 250.21, we're looking for targets at 257.41 and then on up to 262.87 with a stop loss average down at 233.09. To the downside, we're looking for a break of that 233.09 level. That should give us targets at 223.81, 218.26, and 213.24. And the stop loss average down is the 240.82 level that we are looking to hold as our call entry by the dip level. For the downside plan, it is our stop loss level. So those are your Restoration Hardware plans. I hope you guys are ready. Like I said, draw these levels on your charts, set your alerts, do whatever you need to do to remind yourself that it's time to pay attention as some of these setups, kind of materialize. But also, especially with Restoration Hardware, just be watching this one straight out of the open. All right, so let's get to, let's see, there was a IWM. Let's take a look at that, share the love a little bit, and then I'll try to circle back to Adobe and JPM. And IWM might be giving us a trade plan already. This looks like it played out back test of an old upside trade plan. That's what it looks like at a glance, at least. Let's get these levels cleaned up though. All right. All those old long and short positions, don't need those. What am I missing? Oh, a whole nother set of levels down here. There we go. Let's go ahead and fix that. I don't know how they got pushed below all of this. Come on. There we go. All right. IWM. Restoration Hardware was 2 minutes ago. Looks like I've got that 210.51 level just a little bit high. Looks perfect right there. This is an interesting weekly level that we've consolidated below. Didn't quite get to that 210.41 target I would have expected us to hit on this push yesterday. let's see. I do kind of like this setup, though. I'm not sure why it rejected a little short yesterday, but I think we've got a decent starter entry. We can break over this 209, get a confirmed break over 209, I should say. 207.77. I think that's actually or like 207.90. Again, I know it seems like I'm splitting hairs, but it's accuracy is important. Yeah. 207.90 could be our stop loss. Take a shot at 210.41, first target, but again, don't be afraid to scale out kind of on approach to that target. We talk about that often. A lot easier to get good fills that way versus waiting for the rejection to happen and then you're chasing your order fills to the downside, or worst case, you know, having to elect for a market order to get it to go through. But again, kind of watching your profits erode instead of taking profits on approach when the fills are going to actually probably be higher than maybe what you're even putting your order in for. So over 210.41, this is an interesting level where we gap down, nice rejection off that gap fill. There's a daily level right overhead. Wonder though if they're two different levels. 212.05. Kind of like a little range in here, really. Let's see where this puts us. Kind of where I was thinking. Yeah, I'd trend that even just that little tiny bit lower based on the more recent price action. Again, I know I'm splitting hairs, but 211.82 I like as a second price target. Third price target, it's an interesting rejection, a couple of rejections, and support already established earlier. Also just noticing that puts us right at the top key selling level and the 333 SMA there. I'm already liking this before this is a confirmed level, but oh yeah, nice bounce there. Yeah, there's a level there that I just didn't have yet. So yeah, I like this IWM setup for the upside. It's gonna look like this. Pretty decent risk reward, getting to that first price target, probably about a 1.5-ish, maybe 1.3 to 1.5 to 1 risk reward on that. To the downside, looks almost too obvious. That's an interesting little failure to finish the move to the downside there last time. Just kind of wonder if it you know what? Yeah, I think we've got a little bit of a different setup here off a level I just hadn't charted yet. I think I could have possibly this 205.95. Yeah, it looks decent in some spots. At other spots, it looks like it should be a little lower. Let me look at this one a little bit more real quick before I move it. So I'm thinking about moving it. So if it was that little bit lower, whoops, like right about here, how does that look? Looks pretty decent, actually. Yeah, I like that. All right, cool. Sorry, just wanted to check before we go throwing price targets out there willy-nilly. 205.82, second price target, third price target. could be either 204.87 or 203.89. When in doubt, I'm going to go with the more conservative target to make sure that we are taking all of our profits when we should, and not being too greedy. Wait a second. What did I... Oh, this is supposed to be our entry. So wait a second. Yeah, that screwed me up. We still need a third price target. Sorry. It's like this doesn't look right all of a sudden. I forgot to change that line. So, with that being said, I say we keep, again, our second price target in place there at 204.47. Third price target 203.13. But make sure that you are moving your stops up aggressively, and remember that there is a good potential for a bounce off of 203.89. If 204.47 doesn't hold, we still might not get to PT3. So just keep that stuff in mind as we go into, the trading day here. So this is our IWM trade plan setup. Upside, downside. Every time I say that, Method Man jumps into my head. METHOD Man from the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers album. Musical trivia knowledge for you guys. All right, so let's go. And let's see if we can't sneak a quick peek at these other two ticker requests, and then we're going to call it a morning. But here is the IWM live stream plans. Let's talk through these real quick. Post over in Discord. All right, so what are we looking for here on IWM? We were looking for a break over 209. That should bring a test of 210.41 as a first price target, even though we were a little bit shy of it yesterday. I think we get all the way there if we do break 209 again. Over 210.41, our next target's at 211.82 for PT2, and then on to 213.17 for PT3, with the stop loss average down at 207.90. Wait, that doesn't sound right. Why does that look like that? I dropped like 2 levels. Oh, it's because the current price action's pushing. Sorry, that confused the hell out of me with that 208.46, so close to that. 207.90 stop loss average down. To the downside, we're looking for a break below 207.05. That should give us targets down at 205.82, 204.47, and then on down to 203.13 with a shared stop loss average down at that 207.90 level with the upside trade plan. That is IWM for you guys. All right, let's take a quick look at Adobe and then JPM. Quick glance. Adobe, not one that I've ever really, for whatever reason, traded or charted all that heavily. Just, I guess my attention's usually elsewhere and pretty much always on SPY. Whoops, I didn't mean to remove those. What was I thinking? This might still be useful, just not right in this moment. Yeah, okay, let's take a look at JPM then. Unknown review says, give it to Strife. All right, let's see. So JPM playing out through some fib extension levels, it looks like they were. Yeah. Guessing that was our all-time high at the point that we drew those. 209.87 was the all-time high. Pretty much ran up through the first 3 price targets, which are all 3 fib extensions. Nice job, JTW, on the fib extensions. Yeah, continue to play out. Nice back test off that. We projected these levels before they were ever established. And they look like they've played out well. But obviously time has gone on. price action and price discovery has played out. So let's see where we've got established support and resistance and how we want to handle this moving forward. Try to do this one in hyperspeed. So apologies if I talk a little less as I work my way through these on this chart. And right there. Okay, looks like we've got... So this is going to be another interesting... This fib extension, since time has gone on... So this is what I'm thinking. And again, this is another fib extension. We have tested this, though. No. This is a way, way, way off fib extension. So I would use the current all-time high, certainly, as a potential resistance point. It's a little bit shy of what was another fib extension, but again, let's be a little bit more accurate now that we have more data. So this will be a one-sided, potentially, yeah, I like that, buy the dip plan, similar to the other one we did, because I do need to go get to work on the SPY plan. So let's take a look at the hourly. Yeah, things have flipped over. So I like this. As long as we're over 219.19, it's a buy the dip plan. 218.05 stop loss. Price targets at 222.02, 223.67, and 225.51. Let me post these for you guys. JPM live stream plan. All right, so I already talked through it, but I'll talk through it one more time. Whoops. This whole thing here. All right, so what are we looking for on JPM? As long as it's holding or preferably off a back test of 219.19, buy the dip, start small, especially if you're playing very close to open. With target off that buy the dip entry, we're looking for targets at 222.02, 223.67, and 225.51, with a stop loss average down at 218.05. All right, that is going to do it for our morning live stream. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me this morning. Hope everybody got something out of today. If you didn't, come back Thursday and make sure that you're talkative and active, engaging in the chats. That's the only way I'll know what I can work on specifically for you. So with that, as we always say here on the FOMO live streams, plan your trades, trade your plans, keep your wins big, keep your losses small, and come back here next Thursday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Xtrades YouTube channel, where we will have another FOMO live stream coming at you in real time. All right, you guys have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I do appreciate your support and your attendance. We'll see you guys back here Thursday morning. Have a fantastic day. Take care.